it is funny though. Alona can already assume what songs I've added that you gave me.
Yeah.
'Cause I was playing the Mavericks yesterday while I was making dinner.
Oh, yeah.
And my buddy Andrew was over and he was like, this shit slaps. And she's like, yeah, Danny showed it.
It's funny. I've been keeping most of the stuff you give me on my headphones, but I got to play the one song off of the 36 or dirty version. The one where he's like, remember when we used to do this?
Going down.
Yeah, going down.
I actually once annoyed the shit out of a person I really wanted to piss off by doing that once. Like I really just wanted to get on there, so I just started doing that over and over again.
Like you were doing it or you were playing the song?
I wasn't playing the song. I did it myself. I used to be really good at that.
Oh yeah.
I've smoked way too much where I don't think I could try it now. Yeah, no, my voice won't let me. Like I tried to make this sound and like an error message showed up.
Crash.
Like, can you do it?
Not as good as him.
Yeah.
No,
it's crazy because like he's older than us. He's done way more than us, and he can do it. I need some more experience points. Maybe it's a perk I need to get to.
Yeah.
Before we started recording, I was telling Danny, I was at this Mike concert, all caps Mike, young New York rapper, great guy, great rapper. And 454, who we had on our Track Once playlist, he was the second headliner. Dude was incredible. One of the best shows I've ever been to, where if 454 ever ends up in your city, Danny, you need to go see him. Because I can't remember like how Late Night Southview, like on Reflection and stuff, that song that was on the playlist.
Yeah.
But seeing him like do the vocals bar for bar, not even relying upon backing tracks, because like you kind of assume with how his music sounds that like he has like maybe a hype man or he's just like doing every other line. Like, no, like even a track like Lilo and Stitch, which I don't know if you heard that one, he does like this like real crazy fast flow, like just because the beat itself is real demanding and he doesn't let up at all. And he did it live like that. It's insane. It's insane to witness where.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does sound like it would be hard to replicate as one human being on a stage. So it's cool to hear that he can pull it off.
Oh yeah, because like he has like the high pitch effect on his like recordings. Where what's crazy is his voice in real life is just high pitched.
Yeah,
like it's kind of insane to see in person because he looks like a regular dude. He's not. Like, I'm not saying small people high pitch, but like he's like a regular motherfucker, like got jewelry, got glasses, crazy chain and shit. And like, but yeah, he was cool. I almost got a picture of him, which I usually don't do. I usually don't go out of my way to get pictures with celebrities. But just cause like for me, I hate the idea of potentially being on someone's mind as like, that motherfucker really wanted a picture, huh? You know, where I get anxious about that.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah, but like I got to shake his hand. I was close to getting a picture. My buddy Luke wanted to get a picture, but I had to take a picture of him with another fan. And then as soon as I took that picture, the security was like, you got to get out if you're going to be hanging with fans. We need to get the traffic going. We need to get all these people out of here. Because the place was packed. It was insane to see how many people came out for these like artists that I still consider to be underground. Like these are underground artists. They're not going to be winning Grammys anytime soon, where the house was fucking crazy packed, crazy good energy. But the reason why I brought it up was that, you know, we're at the point now where we got fans. We got about, as of this recording, we have like, what, 3-4 episodes out? Yeah, we got 4 episodes out. Yeah.
We've got the part 2, and then, we just released episode 3 proper.
Yeah, the sentimental albums.
4 total releases. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which like we should we should do like that Mrs. Show bit, the call in. Like, you know, you have to listen to this episode. If you wanna reach the time. But no, like so like my buddy who I went to the concert with, my buddy Luke, shout out Luke, he was telling me that like he's been getting into Velvet Underground because of the Track Once playlist that we had in our Track Once episode, which, you know, is always cool, where I love hearing that in the morning, you know, just people checking out shit through our show. So, you know, hit the email, let us know in the comments like what artists you've been loving thanks to us, you know.
Yeah, I put on some if you listen on Spotify, which it seems like most people do, I've been putting up Q&As on the bottom of the episode. So look out for those, and also I'll put up polls and stuff. So yeah, we definitely want to Though we're not going to have guests anytime soon, I don't think. We definitely want to hear from you. And, leave us a voice message if you want to, and rather than type out an essay. So, and then maybe we'll play it. Yeah. We'll bend on the whole guest thing eventually. But, we want to hear from you. So whatever it takes, please email us.
It is funny how many requests I've already gotten. I'm just like, you listen to this thing, right? How are we going to make that work? I don't know how. It's gonna be longer than a Dave Chappelle, Joe Rogan episode.
Yeah,
longer than
3 hours.
Longer than Satan Tango. It's gonna be dumb.
All right, so we're here. We're in the beer episode recording sessions, and we're gonna do a little side conversation about the Wu-Tang Clan because we just talked about Old Dirty Bastards' first album, Return to the 36 Chambers, the dirty version. So because of Julius giving me this album, I went out and watched the Showtime 4-episode documentary series of Mics and Men, the Wu-Tang Clan story, I think is the subtitle. I'm probably just making that up, but of Mics and Men is what it's called.
That's a crazy subtitle for a Wu-Tang doc. Like, are they all of them Lenny, like, and RZA is the guy shooting him in the fucking head? Like,
no, it's Wu-Tang Clan of Mics and Men. That's the official title.
Of Mics and Men. Still,
Mics and Men, yeah.
I'm just thinking of this image in my head of all, like, RZA just shooting all of them in the head. They're all looking at the sunset. Yeah. Unfortunately, if anybody has the gun in their hand with that group, it's RZA.
Yeah.
I'm saying this is a huge fan of Wu-Tang and by extension RZA. Like, RZA's what can you not say about the guy? He's probably the GOAT of producing.
And that's something that, like, I mentioned this on the main episode, but like while watching this, I was just thinking, like, there's no way this can work. Like, this shouldn't be able to work. This idea of having all these people as part of a collective, and then they're all signed as a group, but they're also like they are going to get signed separately as individual artists. And sure enough, you find out that it didn't work. They all wanted out of their contract that they had with RZA.
I think like the only successful rap group that like never broke up is the Roots, because they got to the point where they're like, we can only have one rapper. If we have more than one rapper, we're all going to hate each other.
Yeah.
Because all of them fall apart. But yeah, it's something I was thinking about, because I'm like, it's so insane. Because I was trying to think of like, what rap group hasn't broken up that has multiple rappers?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the Beastie Boys didn't really break up. I mean, obviously MCA died, but did they have
the thing is, Beastie Boys did themselves a favor by, like, not saying that the other rap groups weren't trying to do this, but unfortunately, most of the rap groups that I have in mind, they become like a battle of egos.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the Beastie Boys, there's definitely, they'll tell you themselves, there was definitely egos in the recording booth or whatever, but they were always able to like let themselves, we all don't like this, or we're all trying to force this thing. Let's go out of the box and try this other thing, where they never were trying to stick to the same thing. Because what I noticed with a lot of groups when they end up like getting beef or whatever is that some people want to break out of the mold they created for themselves, whereas a bunch of other ones want to like stick to what's working.
Yeah.
Something that comes to mind is Brockhampton, who like really wanted to be the gay Wu-Tang. I'm sure they called themselves that like 10 times, despite it's only one gay guy in there. I think it's so funny that one gay guy made Brockhampton a gay rap group. Anyway,
well, if you're okay with being gay, then that means you're gay. Sorry.
They're from Texas. They're basically doing it to themselves. But what you call it? But I like Brockhampton, but I've always kind of found them to be like a very silly thing to be hyped about. Because everyone's like, Brockhampton's gonna change the rap game. All these dudes already look like they hate each other. And unfortunately, that can result in 3 good albums. But after that, you're basically shooting yourself in the foot until you have to saw it off. Because we'll get into it, but like Wu-Tang, unfortunately, couldn't escape these traps that would become like even used for rap groups years beyond them, of like just the conflicts they had.
Yeah, it sounds like the Beastie Boys had a exit plan of like when it gets overheated, you pull the cartridge out and you blow on it a few times and put it back in.
Yeah,
and it works.
Because who knows how they made it work? Because even Run DMC broke up, which is like hilarious.
Yeah. So I guess what we're gonna get into is, I personally have listened to the first Wu-Tang Clan album, and I've listened to ODB's album that we just talked about. But other than that, I've maybe heard pieces of it, but I don't have a another one that I've listened to in full. So I'm going to ask Julius to give me the three that he thinks would be work best for me, or at least maybe your favorite, or however you want to approach this. You can do that.
Like
And in the meantime, we'll kind of talk about the Wu-Tang as a whole for a bit, and what I thought of the documentary, and what Julius, about the Wu-Tang's history through, you've read books, you said, and stuff like that. So
yeah,
that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, because like I mean, if we want to start, like, I mean, someone who I think is like undeniably the best rapper at Wu-Tang and has like the strongest like discography outside the group is Ghostface Killah.
Mm-hmm.
Like when and you're in a very fun place right now as a rap listener, because since you haven't heard Ghostface Killah's solo albums front to back, you have no idea how ridiculous he gets yet. Yeah. Because I think what's funny about Ghostface Killah is that from the first album to even ODB's album, Ghost, he has his like high pitched voice. He knows how to like let a line just fucking burst out of him like a gunshot, but you don't really get what makes him dope like the rest of them. Like, because GZA has the complicated wordplay. Method Man has the rhythms that he's able to pull out of his like verses and stuff. ODB's ODB. Raekwon has the sickest flow, his flow is just like a sword. And Inspector Deck, back to the same thing as GZA, like crazy wordplay, crazy flows. Whereas Ghostface Killah, you don't really know yet of why he is like a GOAT and why to me he's the greatest, because when you tap into Supreme Clientele, his second album, it's like, I don't know what the fuck okay, I know what happened to him. Like, he went to Africa and like I'm trying to remember what, let me look up what place, because I hate when people say he went to Africa. Like, Africa is a whole continent. What fucking country, what state, what street?
I live in North America.
He went to North America. Oh yeah, because like Supreme Clientele, because like I just found the background I was looking for. Supreme Clientele is an insane album because it has like, it's full of dope beats, it's full of great features, and it's full of Ghostface finding himself as a rapper, where he adopts this intense stream of consciousness style of lyricism, where similar to ODB, you can't really guess where his visuals are going to take you. There's so many verses. Like, Supreme Clientele is like the only album is still like cool to be a nerd about, because you should really read along the lyrics as you're listening to it. It's so intense. The word choice, the like imagery, all of it. And too bad what I was talking to earlier, what could have caused this like change is that Ghostface Killah, when right before this album was getting made, he was 27, sick with diabetes, and he went to the African nation of Benin, sorry if I mispronounced it, with RZA, and he lived in a mud hut, was treated by a bush doctor, and he came back with the lyricism that I'm talking about, where sometimes when you're an artist and you choose to go somewhere overseas, that shit will make you lock in a way you could never before, which is why, I don't know how much they talk about it in the doc, but like Supreme Clientele is like just, it could be the best thing to come out of rap. It is such an insane album with the synthesis of beats and lyrics going for it. And it's able to do it without having any like crazy producers. Like, I think RZA only has like 3 beats on it. Most of it is done by affiliates of Wu-Tang Clan. And it does have like big features at the time. It has like Redman. It has like most of the Wu-Tang members on it. But it's able to make so much out of like without cashing in on the trends that were going on around that time. And it also single-handedly saved the legacy of Wu-Tang for a whole decade, because Wu-Tang Forever was a huge album and it was a great album, but it wasn't really enough to like help the next generation of Wu-Tang albums like be able to stand on their own. Whereas Supreme Clientele, it gave them enough credit to be able to hold enough weight to the next great album came out for them solo-wise,
Yeah, weirdly they didn't really touch on that specific album as much. I mean, there's only so much time. I
won't be surprised because they're all probably jealous of it.
Yeah.
They get like that with their music.
They did kind of go into a lot of ODB stuff just because, he wasn't there to speak for himself.
Yeah, so, he's the heart if there's a heart of a Wu-Tang story, it's ODB.
Yeah. Like,
kind of like how they did that with Eazy-E and Straight Outta Compton, which it's not that like, oh, he died, so like, you got to make him the beating heart of the story. But no, like they both did similar things for the groups that they didn't get a chance to like, watch for too long, and how their legacy built and stuff, where without them their respective groups will fall apart in seconds, you know?
Yeah. But one thing in particular in the doc, so you haven't seen it. I feel like, you could watch it, but I'm comfortable giving you like kind of spoilers because one, you already kind of know most of it, I'm sure. And it would still be fun to watch the guys like talk themselves about these things, over me retelling it. But one of the great scenes is in the last episode where they're going over the album that they sold in an auction to Martin Shkreli.
Yeah. I've always was curious to have them tell what happened with that because I never really looked into what they had to say.
Yeah. I mean, kind of the general consensus is that it's not a Wu-Tang album because they didn't know that they were making a Wu-Tang album when they were recording their parts for it, because it was kind of like a RZA and one of the most hilarious figures in rap that I've ever come across, Silver Rings.
Yeah.
Who is literally just like a RZA fanboy who's like, yo, RZA, I'm you. We're just like the same type of guy. I love you. Let's just go and do all this stuff together. And just like, so RZA kind of gives his perspective on it and how like he wanted to treat it like an fine art piece or whatever and sell it, make only one copy, like, how there's only one copy of every famous art piece and auction it off for a huge sum. And Silver Rings was the guy who kind of put it all together, did the actual work of getting everyone to record their stuff and didn't really tell them the full picture. So they're all just like, yeah, we're going to do it because it's, these are my brothers, like, of course I'm going to help them out and we're going to put this album together. So they all recorded their verses and stuff. And just there's like a cut to like kind of the RZA and Silver Ring side of the story. There's a cut to Ghostface and he's like, it's bullshit. It's not a Wu-Tang Clan album, like, and then that's where it starts to get how everyone else feels about it and how it just kind of made them look like a joke. Damage their kind of public perception. So
yeah, because like it was very, very, very just like I remember as a Wu-Tang fan, I felt conflicted because everyone wanted to keep saying like, man, that's so dope. They made an album that sold for 2 million. When it's like whereas for me, like I just felt sad because I was like, what was that, 2014? I was like, I was 18, and like I was still very much holding out hope that like, oh man, Wu-Tang can still potentially drop a new banger, a new album where they're all focused and going in. As soon as like I heard it sold for that much and to that fucking jagoff, like I knew there was no chance it could be an actually good album because the quality isn't what matters. It's the fucking price. And they've made albums that are shit that sold like $5. Yeah. Where like I just like felt very disappointed that it had to become like the last big news story for them because I can't even remember the last time they got like that level of relevancy again.
Yeah, I mean it was probably around the release of the documentary when they had that come out, but yeah.
And I think it's like everyone kept making the whole thing of like, we gotta steal the album, we gotta like steal it. The worst thing you could do to a rap fan is tell him about an album he can't listen to because when it comes out he doesn't care anymore.
Yeah,
like, oh my god, the most recent one was Earl Sweatshirt and Alchemist made a huge mistake. They probably don't think it's a mistake, but it's a mistake for the fans who are smart. They were like, yeah, man, we got a secret album. We uploaded it on YouTube, and you won't be able to find it because our names aren't attached to it, and there's so many albums on YouTube where you won't be able to find it. And everyone spent the whole year looking for it, despite, even if it exists, you're not going to find it. Everyone got so obsessed when people started sending death threats to both of them, saying like, where the fuck is this album? How dare you? And then they finally drop an album together because the main reason everyone was like, where's this album? Because everyone was like, Earl Sweatshirt on the album for Alchemist Beats? That sounds insane. They finally dropped that album, and everyone's like, yeah. Where's the one you said that was hidden?
Yeah.
You don't need to dedicate a year of your life looking for this one, where
it's like the dog chasing its tail.
Yeah, and like and the Once Upon a Time in Shaolin, which really dope title, I give them that. The whole thing of that becoming the whole thing, like we gotta find it, we gotta look for it, and just like having to see these people put this much effort and not recognize that it's not going to be worth it by the end, it was just sad to see because they didn't know yet what a modern Wu-Tang album sounds like. And it's exactly what Ghostface and like people at Doc were clarifying, that a lot of it, they're not in the room together anymore, which is like the most unfortunate thing about recording music, which it's not that unfortunate if you're able to make it work, but like you have this illusion in your head of like, oh, they're in the studio together, making it together, you know, when it's like, no, most your favorite feature on a song probably was done in a whole other country.
Yeah.
From where they originated the idea of it. And like Wu-Tang is just one of those things where once it becomes that, it's just lost. There's no way you can really like save the energy of that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, my opinion on that is like, as long as the mics don't sound completely different from each other, I'm fine with however you need to record it.
Which happens on a lot of these Wu-Tang albums.
Oh, yeah. I haven't heard the recent Wu-Tang stuff, but it happens on a lot of like popular rap songs where it's like, this guy was recording on the iPhone microphone compared to the other guy.
My favorite one of that is when they released Astro World and Nav's verse on the song was recorded on a much lower quality mic.
It was like
it took them a week. It was too quiet, and also when they brought it up at first, it sounded like shit. Where those 2 updates, like they had to clean it up.
Yeah, they did fix it.
Yeah, and like it's so funny that came out for an album that huge, and to someone like Nav, you know, like it's like the joke writes itself.
I mean, I had a picture in my head of that. Of the Astro World, one of the most anticipated albums of all time, dropping, and his verse sounds like that, and him just like crying. Like that's how I picture that song. I like the song.
Yeah, and like I'll admit it. You can disregard everything that I've said on this podcast so far for me saying this. I like Nav. I think Nav is not bad.
All right, yeah, we're gonna stop now.
But I do think that like Nav not having a chip on his shoulder after something like that shows the strength of a guy like that, because that would drive me crazy. But anyway, back to what I was saying and what we were talking about. That's the biggest issue of like when you have people who are recording for something, they have no idea what they're recording for. It can just force a project to have to like, you know, do mental gymnastics to maintain a sense of like coherence, you know? And these later Wu-Tang albums fully had that going for them based on just like how much there was just verses thrown together, especially by the RZA, who like cannot compliment enough as a musician, but as a guy, I don't really know how to make much sense of it, which is why I do want to check out this doc, because a lot of people would jump to being like, RZA's fake, RZA's shady. I don't care enough to really have that confirmed, man. I'm here for the music, but also when you look at it, it's kind of just weird that there's so much in his like background of how he chose to deal with the Wu-Tang name and stuff.
Yeah, it is funny too. Like, I mean, yeah, I do find RZA to be interesting because of how he is constantly like he's like that meme of like, you know, some like it's like Zach Galifianakis in The Hangover, and like all the math problems are appearing on his head, but instead of math problems, it's like acronyms of like, you know, because like RZA stands for like Rakim, Zigzag, Allah,
the Resurrector.
Yeah, and so he has all these like, you know, like just words just spitting out on a keyboard or whatever, like in his head at all times about how words connect and like things like that. I mean,
hell, wait till you get to their mafioso phase and they come up with even more new names for themselves. Yeah. It's really funny.
Someone compared him to like when he was a kid, he had a huge head. Like I forget the comparison they made, but like I pictured like Jimmy Neutron, like it's just like all this stuff going on in his head. And he can't. I mean,
it makes sense because like when you check out the stuff, which I'm sure they talked about on the doc, like when you check out the kind of machines he was making these beats on, and how like I think like he had like only a second or two for each sample or some shit, like to have that level of craftsmanship with to make these albums with. I don't think like because for me with RZA, you can easily dismiss me like, oh, Kanye made colder beats, DJ Premier had colder beats, but like you don't have the underdog visual of just being able to make the beats that RZA had on these fucked up machines that he had to try to make magic off of, you know?
They didn't get into that at all. Like that's what like disappoints me about that. Like I don't know if it was like lack of footage or they like didn't want to show the reveal the magic behind it, you know, which I could understand that if that was their argument. Like again, like cuz sometimes you don't want to see how the sausage is made because it ruins the magic of it. But I still like just what they were able to do. Like they talked about but like before they were a group, there would be like a DJ, you know, cutting songs on a Fisher Price turntable. Like that's the stuff I want to like. They probably don't have footage of that, but like I want to see them like doing it. And they didn't really linger on. It was almost like a photo book, which the opening theme and like the intro of the show was like
Yeah.
very much like a photo book, kind of like showing all these old pictures and stuff, which, that's cool to a certain extent. But when you have so many, you can't really linger on like certain ones that are interesting, And that was kind of my overall critique of like, they didn't linger on old performances that long. They would show like a quick verse and like show the crowd and cut to all different shows. And that's just not what I'm looking for in a documentary like that, especially when it's 4 episodes.
Which something I'll tell you is of course, it's not a documentary. It's not a representation of a true story. But I haven't watched more than 2 episodes of it. I should really get back on it. But the Hulu show that they made about Wu-Tang has a lot of these like fun facts about their history being dramatized to the level that they deserve to be. Because like I've always like read about like RZA's whole process of how he like had to work with these crazy machines and stuff. And the Hulu show has like damn near a whole subplot about it in the first episode, where I've always heard good things from like huge Wu-Tang fans on it. I couldn't prioritize it just because there was a lot of performances in it in that first episode that just had me confused of like, I don't understand. Yeah. Like specifically I like the actors. I like all the actors, but the actors they picked for RZA and Raekwon their performances make me uncomfortable. And maybe it's because if I had to be in the same room as Raekwon and RZA, they are just like that. But it's just so weird to watch in a show like this where all the other characters are like treated as like heightened figures of fiction and stuff,
Yeah.
But it's funny because Raekwon and RZA were the ones who produced it. They gave themselves the weirdest performances. Even ODB seems cool in it, despite they don't hide from, his raunchiness. But yeah.
Right. So we have Supreme Clientele. That's the first one I should check out, right?
Yeah. Which, like, I mean, a lot of Wu-Tang fans who are listening, they'll probably be like, no, just keep going in the order of the release. And I'm like, no, just... I would rather have you find out how fucking awesome Ghostface Killah is than, like, respect any, like, false map to getting Wu-Tang, because you just gotta check out the great albums. But Supreme Clientele, check it out immediately. I could honestly make the other 2 albums Ghostface Killah albums, but I won't be that mean. I do think that I don't want to pick both Liquid Swords and Only Built for Cuban Links because I do want to use the third spot for something that is like underrated. But check out Liquid Swords first, because similar to Ghostface Killah reinventing himself on Supreme Clientele, GZA has a very like in your face like style on like his features before Liquid Swords, where Liquid Swords he fully just sounds like a seasoned samurai who has put down his sword to pick up a mic and like tell his like crazy fights and experiences, in the most lyrical sense, where he lives up to the promise of that name, the genius, GZA, and Liquid Swords is like just one of the coolest albums ever. It's so sick. Every song is a banger. All the like probably RZA's greatest showcase as a producer. Like every beat could like be in the score of like the coolest action movie. Yeah. And the features are all over it who are killing it. Like Inspector Deck has 2 insane verses. It's an album where the cover art, you can really stare at it while you listen to it. It just like it becomes even more colorful the more you listen to the album. Like it's just a very mind-blowing piece of work.
Yeah.
And do they talk about that at all in the doc?
Yeah, they did mention that. I mean, they kind of mentioned all of them, but this one I think they at least gave a little background about the title and stuff. But yeah, I think I'll definitely check out Only Built for Cuban Links too, because that's another one that's been hyped. But it doesn't count as your third.
Yeah, because like totally that fine. One I could talk all day about too. It's like it's an incredible record, but I'll try to save us some time.
I found Raekwon to be one of the more interesting people in the documentary, because just the way he had a lot to say and a lot of, especially when they did some footage of them like walking through their old neighborhood and stuff, and talking about the problems, like police brutality and stuff like that.
If you think RZA talks too much, Raekwon will have you put him almost at first place too.
Yeah, no, I think so.
he gave a lot of voice to the anti-RZA mindsets online. Which, I mean, if I had to pick a side, I'm very much more on the side of RZA, because for me personally, like with no RZA, you don't have Wu-Tang. That is unfortunately the truth of the situation. Whereas much as he screwed them over with label deals and stuff, when you come up with something as insane as Wu-Tang Clan, you're gonna have to step on some fucking heads to maintain that leadership, unfortunately. And
Yeah.
Raekwon has every reason and right to voice his distaste with that, but it's just for someone outside of it, that's how I look at it. But if you like Raekwon, absolutely check out Only Built for Cuban Links. It's the purple tape, you know?
Yeah.
There's so much music in depth to that album. Like, Coke never really had much room in rap that didn't feel like it was what's the word? It was more about like, oh, my cousin died from it, or stop selling Coke. Like, Only Built for Cuban Links, honestly, like, and I'm sure it's predated by many, many records, but I do think that like when that album came out, you got all these rappers who usually would just only talk about Coke in a way of like, yeah, I know guys who slang, or I know guys who like bang or whatever, people who died from it. It turned it into every rapper wants to be a huge Coke boss. Like, Scarface was already cool, but only Built for Cuban Links made sure Scarface was not just a cinematic text, but was a hip hop text, you know, where the way it uses the samples in that album to give it a whole aesthetic is insane. But yeah, it doesn't count. Despite I'm already talking too much about it.
No, that's okay.
But yeah, those two are neck and neck because they came out the same year, which is just most producers. Like, the only guy who could really do that now is Alchemist. Like, Alchemist will drop like 5 insane albums that are fully produced by him in a year now, whereas RZA did it so casually with those two. Yeah. But a third one, I'm trying to think. A thing that I think is very unfortunate, because I talk about him a lot on the Return to the 36 Chambers, is Method Man, who I think is like easily just one of the coolest rappers. He's just great. But he doesn't have that much stuff that I would say front to back are like good albums, unfortunately.
Which is, it's interesting because Tikal was the biggest selling one, I think.
Yeah. I mean, Method Man was a star. Yeah. Like, Wu-Tang Clan, all of them were famous to some extent, but even ODB was eclipsed by how much the world loved Method Man.
Yeah.
Even with Blackout, with Redman. Redman's a rapper who has like, you know, he's going to get like 10 million views on his songs, but just because of how devoted his fan base is, because in the 90s, these were the coolest fucking guys. Yeah. Like, they had How High, which such an amazing comedy movie. Some people say shit. I think it's hilarious. Honestly, I'll say check out Blackout, because do you listen to Redman much at all?
I don't think I ever have, unless he was a feature.
Redman, we could do a whole like fucking package of episodes on. He's like one of the dopest rappers who is just forgotten, because you would never say like we love prophesizing Tupac and Biggie because they were great and they died, and then we prophesize Nas because no one rapped like that when they were 17 or whatever. But yeah, Redman is a guy they take for granted way too much. It's insane how much he molded his own lane in rap and sped through it without exhausting it for like so many years, where he's a guy who I find very committable as an artist. And we were very lucky to be able to see a guy like him and Method Man discover a very natural chemistry, which, I mean, you already got to like get a hint of it on that one Tupac song, Got My Mind Made Up. Yeah. Where the album they dropped in 1999, Blackout, it just has like so much. It's like, it's basically a party record with a lot of bass heavy, funky beats. And it's like just a very sick record full of like just the energy that you could find from a typical Wu-Tang album, but also Redman as well, you know? Yeah. Where it's a great blend of styles.
Gotcha. And what was the name of their duo? Right, because
it was just Method Man and Redman.
Oh, they didn't have a name?
They had an MTV show called Meth and Red, but nah, they didn't have a name. That's why I think it's so cool. These guys were able to blow up just by putting an "and" in between their names.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and they still like each other. Like not to even say like, oh, of course they're still friends, but that's why I think it's kind of just like it shows how glorious they were able to find each other in that style, because like I said, most groups break up, and especially rap duos. Like, I think Kanye and Jay-Z would still be friends if they didn't make Watch the Throne.
Right.
Like, I think the album fully sacrificed whatever goodwill they had between each other, you know, where Method Man and Redman were two guys who were just so special in how they dealt with the industry and dealt with their music, where you don't find that kind of like healthy balance in rap, not in many people, you know? But yeah, so Supreme Clientele, Liquid Swords, and Blackout. And from there, you can honestly just
keep going.
Look up critically acclaimed Wu-Tang albums, and the critics won't let you down. I don't think the critics, like, a lot of people like to shit on like how critics have fucked up the legacy of some albums, and I do think they have, you know. But when it came to Wu-Tang, if it got good reviews, it was probably just because it was actually really good. we're like, don't feel like you gotta check out Immortality because I think the critics missed something there. They didn't. It's ass because it's ass. Like,
yeah.
But when it comes to like, you know, Master Killer, who's a very, very underrated member of Wu-Tang, he has a couple great solo albums that critics acknowledged. GZA has a few that are good, but none that ever like get close to Liquid Swords. Ghostface is the only one who I'll say every Ghostface album is worth checking out because you'll find something that someone missed. Yeah, you know, and especially his great ones. Like Fish Scale is like a monumental album. And like, hell, my take that I even like when it gets myself for the sake of, you know, giving you a more interesting way to get into them. Iron Man, Ghostface's first album, is probably my favorite Wu-Tang album in the 90s. Like, I think it's the peak of what they were building up to. Yeah. You know, it's just not that great of a Ghostface album when you compare it to his other work because, I mean, on the cover itself, it says Iron Man starring Ghostface Killer, Raekwon, and Capadonna, where it's very much an unofficial group album of those three. You get to really get into their chemistry and stuff, but the songs where Ghostface is solo, unfortunately, they don't stand as greatly to the ones that have one of the two on there with him. Right. Where, not to say he doesn't have any great solo songs in there, like Soul Controller is fucking insane, but Soul Controller isn't really anything compared to Marvel, which is like a thing you'll get if you're into Wu-Tang. But yeah, but Iron Man, amazing album. It's a masterpiece, but I won't let you go astray of being like, oh, Ghostface is supposed to be this great rapper, but he has these two guys helping him, you know, where Supreme Clientele, it shuts all that shit down. That album is all him. It's a wonderful, wonderful work of art. Yeah. Supreme Clientele.
Well, nice. Yeah, I'll definitely check those out, and you know, I'll probably come in with an update to let everyone know my progress. I'm looking forward to checking those out. And yeah, I think, you know, if you're interested in the doc, I have to say it's definitely a product of how now every single music or any documentary really is stretched out into a series rather than just being one piece. Which, you know, sometimes I don't mind that.
And like, my problem with that is that they stretch them out to a series, but they still miss stuff.
Yeah, exactly. They're too long and too short.
like, what's the point of even doing it that way?
Yeah.
Because the best, I mean, my favorite documentary ever is OJ Made in America. And what I love about that doc so much is that, sure, it's like long as shit, but like it's split in 5 parts and they don't miss an inch of what's fascinating about this story.
Yeah.
Where to me, I still don't understand how people can make a docuseries that still focuses too much on parts that aren't that interesting because they're trying to be trendy and then ignore so much shit that is monumental to the story, you know?
Yeah, like one thing in particular in this one, there was like a scene where, I think it was even in the last episode, where they show You God going into the booth to record his audiobook.
Yeah.
And like literally they're like, there's like a guy there who's like, all right, yeah, give it one take. You know, oh, try that one again. I'm like, I do not need to see this. I want to see RZA in his basement, like doing stuff with these crazy beats.
Did they talk about the basement flood?
I can't remember. If they did, I'm not remembering it. So maybe, but
yeah, because
it's not standing out.
If they don't talk about that, that's really crazy. Because the reason why people think, I mean, the reason why people have fun hating on every Wu-Tang album after Wu-Tang Forever is because I think it was either 96 or 97. I forget the exact year, but RZA had a basement that he made most of these albums in, most of the beats especially, and that basement flooded where he like lost albums worth of beats, albums worth of vocals that were close to completion, where Inspector Deck had a bit of a curse going for him because his solo album, which was supposed to come out, I think, after Iron Man, was destroyed in that flood. Wow. Where Inspector Deck should be as big as the rest of them because he was such a standout rapper, as you'll see in all the stuff you'll check out. But he never got that like classic debut like GZA did, or Ghostface did, or Raekwon did, or even Method Man did, or ODB because of that flood. And that flood got rid of so many beats that were reminiscent of that style that he like mastered throughout the 90s that he ended up abandoning for more electronic beats, which I love RZA's electronic stuff. I don't really get people who are like, no samples, he sucks now, where like I think he's such a great experimentalist as an artist or whatever. But yeah, no, whereas Crazy, they don't bring up the flood because that story is talked about way too much on rap message boards, even on rap Twitter, of like, if the flood didn't happen, Wu-Tang would have still been on top. And I'm like, I know we would have had some more great music. I don't know about that part, but
well, I'll be embarrassed if they did talk about it and I just forgot, but they didn't make it a big point of contention. 'Cause, I mean, to be fair, like the last 2 episodes, like I think episode 3 was kind of like the end of ODB's life is what they focused on a lot. And also the everyone wanting out of the contract, and then RZA being like apparently difficult, even though he claims that he was not difficult, except for in the case of ODB, who he didn't want to let out of the contract. I guess because he felt that ODB would get abused and used by the record people. Which there's like a great scene that they filmed of like RZA coming to sign the deal to let ODB out for him to sign, and like there's like almost like it was scripted in a movie. This like white guy record label executive, RZA walks in and he's like, "What was your name again?" Like that white guy, and he's like, RZA's like, "You don't know who I am?" He's like, "Oh, you're RZA. Oh, so nice to meet you." It's just like this insanely awkward moment that looked like it should have been scripted, but so that was great. And then one other story that I think we can end on. I guess with the Wu-Tang arc, like they had the issues in the beginning, and now they all seem pretty good with each other, give or take. Like I'm pretty sure they all hate Divine, RZA's brother, who he does an interview, but apparently RZA banned him from speaking publicly for 25 years until like the making of this doc. He was like, "All right, you can talk, whatever."
Which is really funny that he was able to have that much hold on his brother.
Yeah. Like the way he phrased it, he didn't say it was like legal terms or whatever. What do they call it? Like some sort of like order, like a court order from preventing you from speaking on something, like a muzzle order, I think is what it's called. But he didn't use that term. He just said, "You're not allowed to." But there's a scene. It shows one of the managers, Mook, basically like he's tasked with getting their first single played on the radio to get it out there, and he pulls a Better Call Saul style scheme of walking into a record store and being like, "Hey, I got these records, you can buy them, people want them, they got played on the radio." And he has someone come in and be like, "Oh, that's that Wu-Tang song, yeah, I heard that on Bobito's show, play, yeah, I need that." And like apparently like 3 or 4 people came in from behind also saying that he didn't bring with him. Be like, "Oh yeah, I love that Wu-Tang. I love that. They played that on the radio. I heard that." So like, of course, Mook is like, "Oh yeah, I got the album right here. You can buy it." And the record store lady's like, "No," and she like grabs it or whatever. And he's like, "All right, I'll buy them off of you. You can't be selling records in my store, So
that's so funny.
It just kind of speaks to like the hunger of, which is something like every artist face once they get successful, of like, like do they lose the hunger and the music suffers for it or what? But I just like the way they set it up in those first 2 episodes is really exciting, and like their success and how it came about, like with everything against them.
To get
seemingly
too deep on what you just said about hunger, I always found hunger in rap to be a double-edged sword, because like you can like look at a lot of rappers who have been in the game for 20 years who are still great or whatever and say like, "Man, he's still rapping like the Riz dude. He's still rapping like this and that." And like, it can definitely lead to someone's own fall off by being constantly wanting to like, get to that like grandiose stature they had before and everything. Where, I mean, we even see it right now with Kanye's current fall off of just like constantly chasing whatever the most popular thing is and like saying like, "Oh my God, I need that on my album, I need this on my album," which was like an interesting thing about him is that like it was a thing that he always had on his albums. Like on his first album, you can see who is featured on it. They were like the hottest rappers of the country at that point, where he's still doing it, but it's kind of like now gone to his detriment because the stuff that is popular in rap also kind of fucking sucks. Where like Kanye loves whatever is popping in rap, but unfortunately that goes from him doing songs with Mos Def to doing songs with Lil Pump and Rich the Kid. No offense to those 2 guys, but I mean the songs do the work for you. And I feel like with Wu-Tang, especially specifically to like RZA, they hunger definitely never like dissipated from them, as you could see with like how imaginative all these guys would get with all the records that they made. But it definitely like shows at some point when they were chasing the money in the name of like keeping that hunger going, and how that could like backfired. Where something that I think is kind of funny, which I'm sure they probably didn't bring up in the doc, is that Method Man had Donald Trump on his second album.
No, they did not.
Yeah, like there's a lot of skits on the Method Man album, just like celebrities calling and being like, "Hey man, when you drop an album?" I think like I can't remember, but I think like Janet Jackson might have done one, or some fucking person. A lot of just like cameos from people being like, "Hey, where's the album?" Whatever, and Donald Trump has one where he's just like, "Hey, I'm in Palm Beach and we're all waiting for your album. Let's get going, man. Everyone's waiting for this album." And like, you know, as a child, I didn't like Donald Trump at all. Maybe I was like, maybe I had a vision or something, or maybe I just was like any logical person and just didn't like him. Because not to go on a whole like, oh, fuck Donald Trump rant. Trust me, you can find a million podcasts that are built around this. But for me, my hatred for him is always stuck in before he was ever president, because I always just like, was it the money? Because I don't know what else is there, or the gimmick of, you know, the money of Wuff or whatever. But anyway, I'm bringing it up because Wu-Tang is so complicated, and you can like talk all day, find so many theories from everyone involved on why Wu-Tang fell off the way they did. But it just led to some really like fascinating shit. Like, I mean, like I bring up in the ODB segment of how he had got nominated for a Grammy for his first album, and even later got a chance to get on stage and do the interruption he wanted to do in the name of like saying losing to P. Diddy is one of the worst things that could happen to you, you know? And like
that it wasn't televised, that album. Yeah, that too. Where like he very much, you know, let himself speak for rap, but it also just led to like very insane shit of like, oh, you know who people wouldn't expect to like Wu-Tang? Donald Trump. Let's get him on the album. And they got him on the album. Like, it's actually Donald Trump. It's not like an impressionist. That wasn't really a thing that mattered that much yet. And yeah, it's weird. Because, like, you can look it up now. Like, there's people who ask Method Man about it, which is really funny because this album flopped. Like, it was really sad. Like, and, like, it's a decent album. The Tikal 2000.
Yeah. Like, it has, like, a few good joints on it, a couple good singles, and even some songs that got on, like, some really good video game soundtracks. But it's just very messy. It's overly ambitious. And that overambition of wanting to, like, remain hungry led to a Donald Trump skit on the album.
Yeah. Yeah.
That didn't really need to be there because nobody's going to be like, oh, I got to listen to Method Man now because Donald Trump. I mean, they will now because people do so much dumb shit in the name of Donald Trump. They do some cool shit too, like when they stormed the Capitol building. Listen to that. but like nobody in the year 1998 was needing to check out Method Man because Donald Trump endorsed it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's something I just thought of that I need to edit in the main episode, but our first piece of merch needs to be a bootleg of the Wu-Tang logo. And instead of Wu-Tang in the middle, like, so I was on TikTok live and I saw a bourbon guy, like a bourbon collector on there. And he had a shirt that had the Wu-Tang logo that said bourbon. So what we need to do is a Wu-Tang logo that says beer in the middle.
Yeah, that'd be so sick. Oh my God. That also just, unfortunately, that reminded me of, I think it's funny that Wu-Tang is in the same spot as Nirvana, where they have a logo that everyone wears, but no one even listens to anymore. Because I saw like the weirdest looking hipster in New York wearing one, and I don't want to be a dick and judge from a front page, but this motherfucker definitely does not know what the hell Wu-Tang is. He at most a few songs, but a full album, I would be surprised. And it's not the first time I've seen something like that, you know. Because even in high school, people would have Wu-Tang shirts and not know what the fuck a Liquid Sword was. And not to be like, yeah, I'm being a gatekeeper, but it's just more like, I just know that this wasn't what they were envisioning when they started this insane project, you know?
Yeah. Well, to be fair to this bourbon guy, I did ask him in the comments. It was funny because I asked him best Wu-Tang solo album, and he actually had some good answers. I mean, I think he said pretty much everything you said as far as, you know, like Liquid Swords and Supreme Clientele and Only Built for Cuban Links was probably what he said. But he just kept listing them. And as soon as he started answering that question, his viewers went down from like 600 to like 80. And he even acknowledged that. He was like, oh, I'm about to get off anyway. But I guess people don't want to hear about that. The bourbon guys out there, they turned it off as soon as they started talking about in-depth Wu-Tang Clan stuff. So
that is so good. Oh my god.
So anyway, I think we could wrap it up there.
This just means this gets like the least downloads of any episode.
Hopefully people want to know, because there's a lot. It really is fascinating. Like, despite my critiques of the doc, like, it was fun to watch for the first time. And like, as much as I would have liked them to show me more of certain things and less of other things, like, what I did see was a lot of cool things. And like, it was nice to see them all get together, because part of it, like a big part of the thing, is them sitting in a theater and watching like old clips together and stuff.
Yeah,
and commenting on it.
It's always dope to at least know that like they can all still get in a room together and be cool, because the worst thing is like, I mean, what we see now with a lot of rap groups, like, I mean, the saddest one is still to me the Migos. Like, it's insane that like a family can get destroyed and cannibalized that much by the industry that it like brought gifts to, where it still just results in the two surviving members not be able to talk to each other. Where Wu-Tang thankfully didn't have to go through something as traumatic as them, but where I think it definitely helps to like, be able to see like, 1 year Ghostface will hate RZA's guts to say, RZA stole my shit, RZA owes me money. But then like a few months later, be able to see them in the same room being like, that's my brother, man. Like forever. Yeah. Where you get to really see like a real family dynamic play out, Yeah. Like in the most wholesome way possible, because like I said, this record industry, even outside of rap, destroys families like it's a fucking hobby,
And it was cool to see them like with their real, like their individual families, and like, and kind of saying that like they're all just this huge extended family that, they all take care of each other and stuff. So that was definitely cool.
Hell yeah. That's what it's about.
So, all right. I think we'll leave it there and stay tuned for next week. We're going to be talking about Young Thug and Future, finally.
Hell yeah.
We're going to take them down.
Also, if you got any Wu-Tang takes, email them, comment them, or whatever. We would love to hear what you think is like your favorite Wu-Tang album or your favorite Wu-Tang member or whatever.
Yeah.
Or a funny one I always say to people is you got or Master Killer, because you can see some real arguments get made out of who is in the last place of Wu-Tang, which is not a bad place. I think you got and Master Killer are better than a lot of rappers, like just in general, but a lot of rappers people like. But when they're in the room of every other member of Wu-Tang, like it's like, okay, you guys suck just because you're next to them. You know?
It's like you have in the room of the popular kids.
Yeah.
You don't stand a chance. But
not at all. Despite they get down on the first album. Sorry, I'm like the guy. I'm losing viewers because I can't stop talking about these people.
Yeah. So leave us. That'll be the Q&A. If you're listening on Spotify, I'm going to start putting Q&As up on the episodes. Like, answer that. We'll read them on air. Email us, thegmspod@gmail. Follow us at thegmspod at TikTok, at Instagram, at X, the site formerly known as Twitter.
You should end it with the Donald Trump skit from the Batman album.
I should. Yeah. Or I'll make my own with AI.
Yeah. Honestly, I do. Can I play for you real quick?
Yes, please.
Yeah, because it's like only 12 seconds. It's really funny.
Okay.
Hey, Method Man, this is Donald Trump, and I'm in Palm Beach, and we're all waiting for your album. Let's get going, man. Everybody's waiting for this album.
End of message.
There's no swag on that. He's got more swag these days, I'll have to say.
Yeah, he sounds so nervous.
Yeah, he sounds like he was doing that for 20 other people, and he was like going through the list. Like, he's got a stack of papers with lines to read.
My favorite thing in the comments is 666 strings has to say, so he only became racist when he ran as a Republican. Isn't that something? And then the reply is like, yeah, all these people are programmed, man. And I don't, I think the funniest way someone can say, I'm not racist, I recorded a 12-second skit for a Method Man album. How dare you? How dare you?
Like, that's like the first thing they go to.
I'm not racist. Ask Method Man.
That's good.
Oh, man.
Hey, the Good Music Show with Julius Jefferson and the late, great Danny Robbins. Danny, I know you voted for me, so I really appreciate it. Anyway, if you get a chance, I would love to hear an episode where you talk about the greatest album of all time. You know the one I'm talking about, Mitski's Puberty 2. She really is our best American girl, isn't she, folks? We love Mitski. We would never throw things at her when she's on stage. All right, I have to go. I'm seeing Phoebe Bridgers perform tonight, and I have to clean the crumbs off my bed before I go. Bye-bye now.
End of message.